What is up? It's Jake again. I think a little bit of different format. I don't think I'm gonna be doing a lot more videos with like me standing up or me doing like a lot of kitschy things. I mean, I'll probably still have like maybe an intro or something, but I'm gonna be doing this from a little bit different of a perspective now, just because I would rather this be a little bit more raw. And I'm gonna try to make this as raw as possible. Even though I have like a light still here that helps me, so you can actually see me decently well. But I think enough things in my life have happened since I've posted last where I just feel like if I can just get some of this out in the way that it feels right in my own self-expression, then I'll be doing myself a service instead of a disservice of trying to chop it up and make it seem like in these bite-sized pieces it's very friendly for the camera, friendly for the audience, which in a weird way I feel like most people just want to hear the genuineness of whatever it is, and I feel like for me that's what I've seen be most enjoyable, is just being able to listen to somebody actually talk. And I think those were the most fun podcasts, and even with comedy or with anything else, it's just enjoyable to be a little bit more forward facing, and I think that's just where I want to go, because it's funny how it's where I want to go, meaning like it sounds like it's something where I am directing the direction of this channel, but in reality, it feels a little bit more like the want for me is to step out into the direction of this rawness, which could mean just about anything. And I think as I continue to develop as a person, one of the things that I know is necessary for me to continue on my life journey is this ability to be able to self-express. And I think with this channel, my goal is just to be in front of the camera, to be in this fluid state of, I don't know what you'd call this, like source or fluid flow state. And I think a lot of creative people can attest to what that feels like. And I'm just now kind of excited about tapping into that, and now that I'm in my 30s. So I think one of the things for me in my life is that I'm realizing there's a lot more to be done and said, and than just what I've been doing. And not that there's anything wrong with how I've been or anything. In fact, I'm really proud of the previous videos that I had posted. But I think now in my life, I'm at a point where it's not necessarily the things that I'm posting, or the material or what I'm giving to people or what I'm doing in my life or how I'm, like what kind of specific material that I'm doing, but really my own personal development and seeing that within me. And so I guess you can call it somewhat of like a spiritual path, but it's just life in general. Like it really doesn't need to be, pushed into this spiritual realm or like this metaphysical thing or anything like that. And I, not to say that those things aren't great. I just feel like it's all one cohesive thing. It's all the same thing. And I think now in my life, I'm in my 30s, which is kind of hilarious that, I don't know. I guess I just never thought I'd be doing creative stuff when I was younger, and now I'm really feeling a very big pull to go in that direction, to link some of my logical, upbringing or very grounded upbringing into like this new interesting creative space, and I'm excited for it. But I think it also comes with this ability for me to be able to stand in front of the camera and just speak from this space of who knows what's coming next. And I want to enjoy that part of it, because I think there's a lot of joy that comes from the spontaneity of just standing here and speaking. And so I think I'm just going to be speaking here every so often. And again, with that, I think it also means that I'm not going to be posting consistently. It might be 5 videos in a week, and then there might be no videos for a handful of time. But I'm going to do my best to work with myself in that. And I hope that, you know, if there are other people watching, that you just be patient with me, because I'm going to try to be patient with myself and learning what it takes to, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but there's like this element of like the throat chakra that I've been learning about, where the self-expression part needs to, it doesn't need to be, nothing really needs to be, but there's an opportunity there for me to continue to like grow and open up in ways where that could be beneficial if someone kind of hears it from my mouth, from my own authenticity. That, not to say that my mouth is more important, obviously, it's just a different perspective from someone in my shoes. And so my goal is to really, without being tethered to my own pride or my own ego. It's funny, I actually put on this hat so that I could not have to think about my hair in the video, and I sat down to make this video so that I could just try to be as authentic as possible without like really putting on too much of a show, because I know that it really starts with me and my own, I don't even want to say ability, because it's, maybe it's ability, but it's also just the remembering, which I'm sure will be a, you know, a thought or a thought process along in this journey, but the remembering of what it feels like to be connected to myself. And I don't want my ego to be a huge part of these videos. I'm gonna do my best. Obviously the ego will pop in, and that's a big part of it, but and ultimately it's really to show that I do have an ego and that I'm just like everybody else. And I mean that in the way that, like, obviously I'm just like everybody else, but I want to be one who is okay showing my own shadows and my own shortcomings. And I think one of those giant shortcomings is like my hair, honestly. Like I just want to make it look good. Like I think most people would, but I think using this platform to express my own insecurities and my own vanity is also going to be a healthy tool for me as a human. And so I do think I'm going to be taking a different angle. You know, it's been like a good year or so since I posted last, but I hope you can bear with me while I'm kind of exploring this of myself. And nothing I'm really going to be talking about in the near future or in other videos is really going to have much to do with me preaching or saying that there's one way to do things. It's just, I think there are thoughts that I have, or thought experiments that I have, that I would like to express. And I think it's one of the ways that I can personally develop. And if people find that there's value in it, then great. But one of the things that I've also played around with is this idea of like Marcus Aurelius. He wrote down a lot of what he was thinking and what he had been experiencing in his life as truths for himself. And he did not necessarily think that anybody would really listen. And I think that I am under this similar impression that I'm just going to be talking to myself in a lot of ways, so that I can at least hear what I'm saying and see what I'm seeing. And there's something about like when you create an idea from outside of yourself, you use some of this data that you're experiencing in your life as inspiration, and then compiling that into a matter in your brain where the synapses actually connect to form an idea that's cohesive and that can create some type of innovation, is something where it is beyond the physical. Like that's why I kind of like this name still for the channel, is that you go out and create these thoughts or ideas from outside of you, and they become material almost in your brain, but then they become sort of reality when you start to speak them. And even though for me, I don't necessarily think all of these thoughts or ideas will become some potent life-changing thing. It's going to be impressive for me to see myself in the future, just because I have a feeling that I'm going to love myself just for creating these videos, whether they turn into something or not, or whether, you know, YouTube is a thing for me or not, it doesn't really matter. I just want to be able to move into an area where I feel okay expressing thoughts. Whether that's my own thoughts or the thoughts of the public, or being okay just expressing, is something that I want to, well, I just feel like it's time for me in my life to start doing, out of no necessity or need to go way out of my way to do. You know, I just want to be able to be raw in front of people and not have that be a major sticking point for me in my life. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But I think today, I'm not really sure if I'm going to split this up into 2 videos. So it's funny because even though I really wanted to make this like all one take and all raw, like the whole thing just one take to me kind of thing, I kind of decided that I would pause. I paused the video. This is like the 3rd one, but this is by far the longest I've made it, so I'm gonna give myself kudos for that. And I'm sure this will be like the one that I go with. But what I wanted to talk about today was the idea of worthiness, and I think it's very potent and pertinent to like what I'm talking about already. Is like worthiness. And I think for me personally, within the realm of worthiness comes a lot of instability, I think, with a lot of people. And I think it's part of the human condition is to feel in some ways unworthy of blessings or just anything good in your life. And I hear this thought a lot of like, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is, which is also an interesting thought experiment that I've kind of run through my brain a handful of times, and could be a topic of further discussion in other videos. But for right now, I think just general worthiness is like, what am I worthy of and what am I not worthy of? And I think for me, am I worthy enough to be in front of the camera? Like, do I look good enough to other people to display my face? Does my hair need to be a part of my own ability to self-express? Do I feel worthy enough to be in the presence of others? Do I feel worthy enough to be in the presence of someone who seemingly is up on a rung of hierarchy that's above me? Like, do I feel worthy to be in their presence? And it's such an interesting topic because I think so much depression and anxiety in the world stems from this lack of worthiness, and we get drowned out by so many different things. But I don't even necessarily want to talk about the negatives, because I hope to, in these videos, express so much more of the positive parts of the thought of worthiness. Because specifically for worthiness, like, let's say that I'm not feeling very worthy of receiving an idea or a thought. This has been on the forefront of my brain for some years, a few years now, where genuinely I feel the idea of like the Wright brothers, or someone who in my life, or not in my life, but like, let's say, like the Wright brothers is a good example though. The Wright brothers, if I think about who they are, and I think about who they must have been to create something like plane, like the flight, like the whole process, it must have been someone who put themselves in a position where over time they worked into their brain and into their psyche into their spirituality, into their soul, into their being, that we are going to be the ones to take this next step. And we're going to put ourselves in a place to be worthy of being the creators of something like flight for humans. And that has obvious repercussions of what it's done to our world so far. But I mean, let's pretend like they didn't at any point feel worthy of being the creators of flight. I personally, Jake, cannot picture someone who walks around in their daily lives thinking negatively about themselves or about their potentiality, and then also creating flight. So for me, it's like, do I think that I need to feel worthy to start to receive ideas or thoughts or blessings or remember myself? I think there's an element to it, if not, a big part of it, where it's like, if I'm the Wright brothers, if I'm, I like the Wright brothers a lot because it's such a radical idea of flight that so many people had looked down on them about. And if they had let their negative mind to take over, or their ego or their shadow to take over consistently, I'm sure it entered their psyche quite a bit. Are we actually going to be able to do this? Are we actually going to be able to create flight? If they tapped into that negativity and let them drive them down, their own worthiness would have been the issue of them actually receiving the idea. And receiving the idea is probably going to be something that I touch on more, but within the brain and gray matter and your neurosynapses, I don't know. It's not that I for sure know that the Wright brothers, it's not necessarily that they were the ones to come up with the idea, but they were the ones to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get better at this self-expression, but they were the ones to allow themselves to be on the frequency, to be ready to receive the idea, or receive the revelation, or receive the idea. And so they had to prepare themselves in worthiness to actually be able to grasp this idea. And so I think for them, they received this continual feedback from the universe, you could say, about what they might be doing wrong or right as they experimented. But I think you continue to hone your brain into that worthiness so that when the idea actually comes, you don't completely reject it. And that's, I think, the big part of this video, is that it's not that we're going to receive these major life lessons as we go every single day. It's going to be this huge stream of blissful whatever ideas or life-changing experiences or whatever. But if we can kind of turn inward and see, am I putting myself in a position to be able to receive today with that intention, then I think it kind of allows you to at least be ready to be on that frequency of reception. And everything else that comes in your way, it's just a good indicator of my possible shadows. Like, for instance, today, like, I wore this hat, right? And I'm just realizing now how much of like that comes into my psyche. And it's just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, okay, noted. I do have some vanity there. I do have that sticking around, and that's probably going to be around because I'm a human and I'm going to have vanity. So at least I can acknowledge that and be okay with that and not let that sink my own personal worthiness. And I think about that too, like, how funny would it be if the Wright brothers woke up in the morning and stressed for multiple hours trying to figure out what they were going to wear or got caught up in the frivolous things. Like, it's such a funny thought that probably wasn't happening, because like, what are the chances that someone like the Wright brothers are getting caught up in the minutia of life and feeling unworthy of other things? It almost could be a comedy, like, because that doesn't really play well, at least for me in my brain. Like, to me, if I envision the Wright brothers, they're people who are devoted to that craft. They're the people who wake up and just throw whatever they got on, and they go to the, their lab or their bike station, right? To explore the possibilities of what could be out there to further the consciousness evolution kind of thing. And that's where they put themselves and align themselves with that. And I think, I don't think it's a bad thing to have these, this vanity, but to be worried about it and to drive your worthiness down along with it is just an option that we have as humans. We can choose to let that weigh us down, or we can choose to maybe center ourselves in something else. And I think that's the positivity part, is that we have the option to choose to let the vanity kind of weigh us down. And through neuroplasticity, which I love that I did make a video on that prior to, but through neuroplasticity on a very physical level, whether you believe in like the spiritual part or not, you can retrain your brain to help you be ready for those moments, so that you're not tethered to negativity through your shadows and things like that. And so it is just a funny thought that, like, I just don't see it very possible, right? And this is a thought experiment, right? Like, that's what I'm doing here, is that I don't see the Wright brothers getting caught up too much in the minutia of poor worthiness patterns. And I think that's what it is. It's patterns. Like, I don't see them waking up, getting on Instagram and feeling threatened by a million people around them. I don't feel like they're self-deprecating too much. I don't see them being the people who walk in and like are really up in arms about how their body looks, as far as like that. And I'm sure they have their own, vanity things or just, their own shadows or worthiness, little things, but they probably just said, okay, that's there. I have this big life mission, and I'm trying to hone my brain and my body to be ready for when that idea comes, for me to not reject it and not get weighed down by this other stuff. I just want to be on that vibration to receive that. And when it does come, and we're just going to keep working and staying in this mode until it does come. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to also do with this channel as well, is like become more efficient with staying in that frame of mind as I'm creating these videos. And whether, I don't even know what that will do completely for my life. I just have a feeling that that's just kind of where I want to go with my life, is be open to the unknown and the creative bliss that comes from just being open, like the Wright brothers were prior to receiving, some of their inspirations for flight in general. And so that's kind of where I'm going to end it today. I know it's 20 minutes long. I don't think, I'm going to have, like, I honestly have no idea how long these videos are going to be. I used to have this big plan. I used to have like a big, just like a blueprint of things. But I think what this is going to be me getting better at having a fluid, state of consciousness where I can play around with the timing and stuff. But for now, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be spitballing here for a little while as I get a little bit more efficient with this. But thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm gonna be continuing to do this in like a little bit more of a raw state. I don't have any idea, like I said, how often I'm gonna be posting, how long these videos are. I don't know anything of that matter. All I know is that, sorry, this is going to be about me for a little while. And this is going to be about me getting a little bit more efficient with getting comfortable in front of the camera and expressing my thoughts in front of the camera. So thanks for hanging in there. Hopefully you got something of this So hopefully you got something from this. I feel super lucky to be here. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to create